Thorne's recollection of the Poland incident. Don't we do this like every year? He recollects this, and it's always like, I was just innocently hanging out on a podcast, and then out of nowhere, destiny baited me into hating Polish people, but I don't even hate Polish people and actually love them more than anything. I feel like this happens like...
I'm not even joking. The real reason that whole incident began is because at the beginning of the show, like I'm pretty raw now, but I was really bad then socially. And at the beginning of the show, it's just because since he's a naive American, he just went on and on about the fact, like, you're going to Katowice, you're going to be in Katowice, it's not going to be, oh, look at the stadium. And I just wanted to be like, mate, it's, you know, Katowice isn't even like an awesome place to go. It's like just some cold, dark Eastern European.
Because he's some American. I've spent more time in Poland than he has. What is he talking about? The only reason why I don't even think I was that mad. He said something like, basically, my recollection is he was like, Poland is a shithole country and they'll take any fucking event they can get. I'm being a little mean, but it was more or less that. And I think I just come off of spending 3 months in Warsaw. And I'm going to be honest, I also thought Eastern Europe was just a giant shithole until I spent 3 months in Warsaw. I was like, oh, it's like a normal place, and their public transport is pretty cool, and like everything seems to work well here. And I'm like, oh, maybe Eastern Europe's not like an actual shithole hell. And so when he said it, kind of like irked me a little bit. But that's the only reason why I got. That's the only reason I was like, bro, what the fuck? But then he turned it into a huge thing. He turned it into a massive fucking thing.
I'd already Googled that stadium and I was like, mate, it's like a 1970s, like, you know, Soviet stadium. Like, you're making it sound like I'm going to like Cowboy Stadium in Dallas and I should be super hyped. So unfortunately, what I was really doing was just like, I thought like a mild, you know, riposte of like, it's shit though, why would I want to go there? And that just turned into what people thought was like a manifesto, like, Poland is shit. It is terrible. So anyway, luckily I haven't got any gigs coming up, so I'm probably safe on that one. But listen, I'm gonna try to be a little bit more tempered. I'm gonna try to use, you know.
Good one. Jesus. But he went so hard on that for no fucking reason. I don't know why. Name 5 cities in Poland. I was in Warsaw. I can't pronounce it, but I could probably guess 5 cities in Poland. Like, there's probably one called... I'm sure that's a city. Let's see. I bet there's a... We'll do an HZ this time. I'm sure there's one that looks like this. There's one. There you go. I'm sure there's a... what else am I missing? He took that one hard. He still carries it with him. Is this guy okay? Hasan, who refused to endorse Kamala, invokes Trump's administration against sympathy against destiny. The Trump admin is pushing America towards imminent collapse. Meanwhile, I'm getting death threats from people who claim to be liberals because they want to defend Israel. What? How much longer is this Gamescom shit going on for? 2 hours. Holy shit. I'm trying to think if I can go work on something for 2 hours. Why are you doing this to him, Destiny? I just can't help it but torture Hasan.
During the meeting yesterday, when you decided to call Vladimir Putin, what was the reaction among the other people in the room, and what was President Putin's reaction to like being brought into a phone call in the middle of your meeting?
Well, I think they expected it. I didn't do it in front of them. I thought that would be disrespectful to President Putin. You know.
Are you kidding me right now? This is what weakness looks like. Just take a step back. Trump is scared to disrespect Putin after Putin's disrespected Ukraine, every European country, international law, and the United States. Republicans try to act like they are the patriots, like they love America, but they act like America is weak. America has the strongest military, and Russia is literally a gas...
Good talking points. I agree. I feel like we covered all this yesterday, though.
President Trump making major progress.
Does he sound like Turkey Tom? No, I don't think so.
Toward peace and high stakes.
Peep the Atriac JREG vid. I'll check it out after when we hit our streamer thing.
Talks with Ukrainian President Zelensky and European leaders in the Oval Office yesterday. Look at that picture.
President Trump also confirming a meeting between Russian President Putin and Zelensky is in the works before he hopefully meets them together.
And joining us now on the phone with more.
Any upcoming media appearances? I've got like a bunch of debates that are kind of scheduled and coming up. I think like a Yale thing, I think an Oxford thing, my West Coast thing, and then a WIC thing. Just like random stuff.
More details. The President of the United States, the 45th and 47th President, Donald J. Trump. Mr. President, thanks so much for joining Fox and Friends this morning.
Good morning. That's quite a crew. That's quite a crew.
Well, Mr. President, the whole world was watching yesterday as you got leaders from the European Union, NATO, as well, from all over the world. How did you get them to Washington, to the Oval Office, so fast?
Well, I think really they have respect for our country again. A year ago, they wouldn't have come. They wouldn't have even thought about it. Now, we've become the hottest country anywhere in the world. Everybody wants to be here. When I made the call, they came. And they said there's really never been anything like it. You know, you'd have one president or one prime minister, but there's never been, such a group. And these really represent the European nations, these people. And they're very good people, and they want to end the war. That horrible war with Ukraine and Russia, it's a horrible war.
It was such a sense of unity, and we all enjoyed watching it because America is on top, and it was on your turf, on your terms. I know yesterday you talked about arranging a meeting to take place in 2 weeks between Putin and Zelensky. Is there an update there, and do you plan to attend?
No, I thought I'd do first let them meet. You know, they haven't been exactly best friends. They haven't gotten along very well. And I called President Putin yesterday, and I do have a good relationship, but it only matters if we get things done. Otherwise, I don't care about the relationship. I do have a good relationship with him, but I want to get things done. You know, I've solved 7 wars. We ended 7 wars. I thought this would be one of the easier ones, and this is...
Wait, is it 7 wars or 6 wars? Why does he always go back and forth on this? Did Obama or Biden ever call into these types of shows? I think they gave interviews occasionally, but I don't know if... Like call in like this? No. Like if they did, it was an exceptional thing, not the norm like Trump does like every other fucking day.
Turned out to be the toughest one. India, Pakistan, I mean, these were big ones. And also, all big ones. And some going for 31, 32 years, one for 35 years. The Congo, think of that. The Congo and Rwanda for 35 years. I got that one done. I got them all done, but this one is the one that is the most difficult, and I thought it would be an easy one. So I hope President Putin is going to be good, and if he's not, it's going to be a rough situation. And I hope that President Zelensky will do what he has to do. He has to show some flexibility also. The thing is a mess. This was started by Joe Biden. This was a war that should have never happened. Millions of people are dead. The country's blown to pieces, Ukraine, and it's a shame. You know, my wife Melania wrote that beautiful note to President Putin about children. The children are devastated. They're taken away from their homes. The whole thing. And this is a war that would have never, ever, ever happened if we had a real president.
So, Mr. President, it's been barely a week since you announced that first meeting in Alaska. It's just been days since that meeting, and then you had the meeting yesterday. In the course of having these negotiations, what has surprised you the most between Zelensky and Putin
every time
in
these guys
terms
talk?
of their strength or weakness of their position right now?
Well, I think the fact that maybe they're getting along a little bit better than I thought. Otherwise, I wouldn't have set up the 2 meeting. I would have set up the 3, a trilat. But I think they're doing a little bit better. There's been tremendous bad blood. And again, this was all worked out by an administration that didn't have a clue. And if you remember, they said, well, if you made a minor incursion, that would be okay. That was the end. The whole thing when Biden made that statement. But minor incursion, what does that mean? So I think they're doing okay. I wouldn't say they are ever going to be best friends, but they're doing okay. And we're just going to see. So we're setting up a meeting. I sort of set it up with Putin and Zelensky. And, you know, they're the ones that have to call the shots. We're 7,000 miles away, in all fairness. You know, we spent through the previous administration $350 billion. Not also $100 billion. That should be reversed if we should have been in for anything. But it wouldn't have happened, so that would have been much better because so many people died. This is the biggest bad situation since World War II. There's been nothing even close.
So, Mr. President, I know you've been doing deals your entire life when it comes to real estate deals, but this was something a little different. The thing that is surprising a lot of people is when it comes to the security guarantees. I know President Putin said no NATO, and you said, you know what, we're just going to take that off the table. But you did get President Putin to agree to NATO-like protections. So tell us about that. What does that entail?
Well, the war really started over NATO and Crimea. And they wanted Crimea back. That was given, not a shot fired by President Obama in perhaps the worst real estate deal I've ever seen. There's been a couple of them. I would say the Gaza Strip was a pretty bad one, too.
Oh, my God. It's the same talking points over and over and over again.
Given by Israel so they'd have peace. So they gave away a big percentage of their oceanfront property in order to have peace. How did that work out? Not so good. And Crimea is the apple of Ukraine. I mean, it's so beautiful. And Obama gave it away. Nobody ever mentions that. If I ever did that, the fake news would they would be writing about me day and night for years. He gave it away. He demanded that they let it go, and Russia came in and took it. Just took it like from a candy from a baby. And it was really Obama's. Not really. I mean, that was pure and simple Obama's fault. What a terrible thing he did to that country. And so they lost their heart. They lost the heart and soul of the Ukraine 14 years ago, whatever it might be. And it was so unnecessary to do that. And that's when it really began, when Obama gave it away. And then you had a lot of other events, but you have tremendous hostility. The people of Ukraine were mortified when that took place. That really began a lot of hatred when they gave it. And they didn't have to. Not a shot was fired. They just took over the most valuable piece and the biggest piece in a sense and surrounded on four sides by ocean, just a little passage to get you back onto the mainland. The most beautiful piece of property you've ever seen as a real estate developer. I look at it, I said, why the heck did he do that to them? And so there's
is he even like a real estate developer? Like, has he built anything from scratch, or is it always just like buying casinos and shit? I guess he built the Trump Tower from scratch, right?
There's great hostility, and maybe rightfully so. But one thing was NATO. They went in and they said, we want we want to get Crimea back. This was at the beginning. Now, Putin, in all fairness to him, he made a good deal. He got it from Obama. But they said, we want it back, and that was not exactly well received because it was like 12 years before. That's where Russia has its submarine base, and, that's been there long before Putin. They've been there for a long time, but long before Putin. And the other thing they said is, we want to be a member of NATO. Well, both of those things are impossible because, again, long before Putin, it was a no-no by Russia or the Soviet Union or anything you want to call it. Sort of a similar thing as it gets larger, but very similar. But it was always a no-no.
Wait, what is he even saying? What?
Because, again, long before Putin, it was a no-no by Russia or the Soviet Union or anything you want to call it. Sort of a similar thing as it gets larger.
The much larger Russia compared to the old tiny Soviet Union. They're basically the same thing. Okay. Thanks for telling us. Thanks for clarifying.
But very similar. But it was always a no-no. You could not. Russia said, we don't want the so-called opponent or the enemy, let's use that term, we don't want them on our border. And they were right. They were okay. And yet they went in and they asked, with the United States, they said, put us into NATO. And everybody knew you just can't do that. They would never have agreed to it. This is before Putin. This is long before Putin. It was just a no-no. It was something that was never going to happen. So they asked for it, and they shouldn't have asked for it because it was, very insulting thing. Now, they could have asked for many other things. But the other thing they wanted to do is getting Crimea back, and, that was given. They had built, they were expanding everything and spending a lot of money. All because Barack Hussein Obama.
What is he talking about? What the fuck? I don't even know. This isn't even like a retelling of history. This is like an alternative universe of things.
Gave it away in one of the dumbest real estate deals I've ever seen.
But Mr. President, you got the Article 5 protections, though, for Ukraine. So they're not going to be a part of NATO, but you still got them the same protection.
So they're not going to be a part of NATO, but we've got the European nations, and they'll front-load it, and they'll have some of them, France and Germany, a couple of them, UK. They want to have, boots on the ground.
Okay, we got the Biden-Obama dinger, I think.
I don't think it's going to be a problem, to be honest with you. I think Putin is tired of it. I think they're all tired of it. But you never know. We're going to find out about President Putin in the next couple of weeks, that I can tell you. And we're going to see where it all goes. It's possible that he doesn't want to make a deal. I always said, you interviewed me, Lawrence, and I think Charlie also. Lawrence, I hate to tell you, Charlie was about the first person in the world to endorse me. He endorsed me about a year before I ran. And that's why he called me this morning, sir, would you do an interview? And unlike Biden, I don't need permission from my staff, okay? And then only to be told that I'm not doing it. But Charlie endorsed me about a year before, I think, and he puts it up on his site. It's still not checked. It's still on his site. I endorsed President Trump before he even ran. So I always like a guy like that, I must tell you. Now, Lawrence is going to be a superstar, but he was a little later to the game. Well,
it's a lot more crowded these days than it was back then. But Mr. President, what kind of assurances do you feel like you have that going forward and past this Trump administration, it won't be American boots on the ground defending that border?
Well, you have my assurance. I'm president, and I'm just trying to stop people from being killed, Charlie. Look, they're losing from 5,000 to 7,000 people a week in that ridiculous war that should have never happened. If we had a normal president, not even a great president, but we had a normal president, it wouldn't have happened. But we had a guy that didn't have a clue. And they're losing 5,000 to 7,000 a week. So even these guys, they'll say, okay, let's meet next week. I said, you can't meet next week. Next week, you're going to have 7,000 more dead people. You can't do that. You got to get this thing done. One of the things at the table was one of the gentlemen, who's a great guy, but he said, I hope I didn't insult him. He said, well, let's meet in another month or two, and let's see if we can start, making some. I said, a month or two, you're going to have another 40,000 people dead in a month or two. You have to do it tonight. And I did, actually. I called President Putin, and we're trying to work out a meeting with President Zelensky, and we'll see what happens there. And then if it works out, then I'll go to the trilat and close it up.
Oh, that'd be...
I'll just get this done. What are they? Hold on. Holy shit. Okay. Those are Hasan laughs. All right.
Good. Mr. President, did y'all discuss any land swaps yesterday? Because we've talked a lot about the Donbass region. And what was the feeling in the room? What did the other leaders say about this?
Well, they understand. Look, everybody can play cute and this and that, but, Ukraine's going to get their life back. They're going to stop having people killed all over the place, and they're going to get a lot of land. But this was a war, and Russia is a powerful military nation, whether people like it or not. It's a powerful nation. It's a much bigger nation. It's not a war that should have been started. You don't do that. You don't take on a nation that's 10 times your size. And, military experts look, if it wasn't for the greatest military equipment, we make the greatest military
Is he making it sound like Ukraine took on Russia or what?
equipment in the world, and we gave them, whatever. They took probably a lot of money too, but they had tremendous, they had the Patriot missile, which is the best in the world. All the equipment, we make the best equipment in the world by far. Everyone else is like nothing. So we gave them a lot of equipment. Now, with that said, the Ukrainian soldiers were brave as hell because they're fighting a force that's much, much bigger and in theory much more powerful. And it's not like they've stopped. I assume you've all seen the map. A big chunk of territory is taken, and that territory has been taken. Now they're talking about Donbass, but Donbass right now, as you know, is 79% owned and controlled by Russia. So they understand what that means.
Mr. President, what did the other leaders tell you?
Donbass.
Because it seemed to be, this is unlike the first Trump term. There was great unity that was there, and we saw their public comments. But when you got them in the Oval Office, and we have this photo of you sitting at the Resolute desk, and all of these world leaders are sitting in front of you. What did they say to you privately? Because it looks like they're on the same page as you, sir.
Yeah, they are. They're very good people. They're very good leaders of their countries, and they want to get back to leading their country. They're consumed far more with this than we are because they're right there. We have an ocean that's separating us, right? A thing called an ocean, a big, beautiful ocean. And they don't, they're right there. So they have to, that's a different kind of a thing for them. When it comes to security, they're willing to put people on the ground. We're willing to help them with things, especially probably if you talk about by air, because there's nobody has the kind of stuff we have. Really, they don't have. But I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think if a deal is made, famous last words, right? But I think if a deal is made, I think Russia's had it. They've all had it. And for a very extended period of time, I don't think there'll be a problem. But there'll be some ocean, a big, beautiful ocean. And they have an ocean that's separating us, right? A thing called an ocean, a big, beautiful ocean. And they don't, they're right there. So they have to, that's a different kind of a thing for them. When it comes to security, they're willing to put people on the ground. We're willing to help them with things, especially probably if you talk about by air, because there's nobody has the kind of stuff we have. Really, they don't have. But I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think if a deal is made, famous last words, right? But I think if a deal is made, I think Russia's had it. They've all had it. And for a very extended period of time, I don't think there'll be a problem. But there'll be some form of security. It can't be NATO because that's just not something that would ever happen. They couldn't do that. So who would want that? I mean, if you were Russia, who would want to have your enemy, your opponent, sitting on
your border,
on your line? You don't do.
They literally don't. Hold on. I just got to make sure. I'm not fucking losing my mind, right? That is Russia, right? This is Russia. Right? This thing here, it is Russia, right? That's the country of Russia. Right? This is all Russia. I don't understand why this never counts as being on the border. It's like these countries don't exist to anybody. Did they leave NATO and I missed it? What?
Do that. So it was always thought that Ukraine was sort of a buffer between Russia and the rest of Europe, and it was.
I just think nobody knows. I feel like I wonder if the whole American talking point about the Ukraine-Russia war, I wonder if it would all change if somebody would just say, guys, I have a huge announcement to make, okay? We actually just found out that NATO has shared a border with Russia, okay, for like 20 years? When did Baltics join NATO? When did they join? Yeah, 2004, like 21 years.
It was a big, wide buffer. Everything worked out well until Biden got involved. When Biden gave them $100 billion right up front, I don't give them anything. I don't know if you know it, but since I've been there, we don't pay. First of all, I made a deal to take rare earth. That's the equivalent of much more than the $350 billion that Biden got away, because I felt so foolish. It was so stupid what he did. And I was able to make a deal with Ukraine, and they were very nice. They have great rare earth, among the best in the world. And we took much more than the $350 billion, and they were great about it. So we got that handled. But now we don't pay any money to Ukraine. They buy through NATO, because I got NATO to go from 2% to 5%, 2% when they didn't pay, 2% of GDP, 2% when they didn't pay, and 5% now they do pay. So it's trillions of dollars So what we do is we make the equipment, the military equipment, and sell it at a full price. We sell it to the NATO. We sell it to NATO, and NATO pays us immediately. And that's the way it's working. And then NATO takes it and does what they want with it, because they really have the right to do what they want with it. But for the most part, they give it to Ukraine.
So, President Trump,
so we're not losing. We're not like we were with Biden, where we were paying hundreds of billions of dollars out. We're paying nothing.
President Trump, during the meeting yesterday, when you decided to call Vladimir Putin, what was the reaction among the other people in the room, and what was President Putin's reaction to being brought into a phone call in the middle of your meeting?
Well, I think they expected it. I didn't do it in front of them. I thought that would be disrespectful to President Putin. I wouldn't do that, because they have not had the warmest relations. And actually, President Putin wouldn't talk to people from Europe. I mean, that was part of the problem. They
stepped out of the.
Do you see how that just changed from, well, I didn't want to call Putin in front of the European leaders because I'd be rude to Putin. And then he said, well, Putin said he didn't actually want to talk to any of those guys. So I needed to go and run off and talk to him alone? Like, you're the president of the United States. Why is Putin dictating your telephone schedule? Holy shit, he's so cocked.
They had no communication. They had no communication with the White House for years as people died. Years with Biden and his people. No communication. Putin told me years. It was years that he didn't speak to anybody from the White House. And it was a long time that he didn't speak to anybody from Europe. No, it's a fractured relationship. And when I came in, I always had, despite the Russia hoax, which truly was a very dangerous thing for our country, but despite that, I maintained a very good relationship. I mean, you saw that when he got off his plane, I got off my plane. There's a warmth there that you can't, there's a decent feeling. And that's a good thing, not a bad thing. People would say, oh, that's such a terrible thing. It's not a terrible thing. You know what? We've got the most nuclear weapons in the world and the most powerful. He's got second.
So can you describe for us how that happened? Did you just announce that you were going to go into the other room to make the phone call, and then you got up and left, and then came back?
I think they sort of knew. I was at the end of the meeting, I was going to call President Putin, and President Putin expected it. And he was there. Now, by the time I called him, it was 1 o'clock in the morning in Russia. Russia's a big place. They have 11 time zones, I believe. 9 or 11, but I think it's 11.
But
think
Mr.
of it,
President,
11 time zones. That's a lot of time zones. So it was late. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, but he picked it up very happily. Sure, he works very hard, like we all do. And we had a very good call. And I told him that we're going to set up a meeting with President Zelensky, and you and he will meet. And then after that meeting, if everything works out, okay, I'll meet and we'll wrap it up. But, it takes, in this case, two to tango. They have to have somewhat of a relationship. Otherwise, we're just wasting a lot of time. I don't want to be doing that I just want to end it. I want to end it. We're not losing American lives. We're not losing American soldiers. We're losing Russian and Ukrainian, mostly soldiers. Some people, as missiles hit wrong spots or get lobbed into cities like Kiev and towns. But, if I can save 7,000 people a week from being killed, I think that's I want to try and get to heaven if possible. I'm hearing I'm not doing well. I hear I'm really at the bottom of the totem pole. But if I can get to heaven, this will be one of the reasons. Well, I think I saved a lot of lives with India.
He's not just going for the Nobel Peace Prize right now. He's going for the Heaven Prize. What is he looking for, the Pope to make an official statement?
Totem pole.
Is he planning on dying anytime soon? What the fuck?
Get to heaven, this will be one of the reasons. Well, I think I saved a lot of lives with India, Pakistan. They were going at it. The planes were being shot down. That was going to be maybe a nuclear war if I let that go. And I did that through trade. I was negotiating with both of them. I said, I'm not going to make a trade deal with you guys. You fight it until you get peace. And I got them on the phone. I made a peace deal. And many deals, 6, actually 7. And then we took out the nuclear capability from Iran. That was a big one in those pilots and those planes. When people say, we had the B-2 fly right over President Putin as he left his plane. He looked up, he said, what the hell is that? That's a hell of a noise. We didn't make it environmentally friendly, okay? If that's okay with you guys.
Did the First Lady let you
got that green energy meme in there, too.
read the letter that Mrs. Zelensky wrote to her?
I purposely didn't. I did not do it purposely. It was given to me sealed, and I'm sure it would have been fine, but she gave a letter to Melania, and Melania told me it was absolutely a beautiful letter, so I'm going to see it. She's sending me a copy, but I gave it to her yesterday sealed. It's nice when you give something sealed. I don't like when things are open. I don't like it. So anyway, it was a beautiful letter, I'm sure.
Mr. President, there was a lot of talk yesterday when we were watching this about what happens after your presidency. How can we ensure that this conflict, that Putin doesn't inching closer or more into the Ukraine territory. Is there anything that we can do? Can our congressmen and women pass any laws that would involve Article 5? How would that be handled?
All you can do is make sure you get a good president, not one of these wackos like in California that runs the worst state anybody's seen, or that guy in Illinois who his family threw him out of the business because he was no good. Now he's running Illinois and he wants to run for president. He's got zero chance. Maybe Newsom has a little bit of a chance. I don't know. But it's hard to believe because his record's bad. But all you can do is hope you don't get that as president. We have a great bench, as you know that. We have great talent. And JD and Marco and Scott Bessen's been great, and Howard. They're all. I mean, we have such superstars. Remember this. Take a look at the border. The border was a disaster. Millions of people were pouring through. Open border. Within 2 months, it was perfect. And within now, every month they say zero people are coming in illegally. We were taking people from prisons all over the world, gang members, insane asylum, mental patients from the worst insane asylums in the world that dropped into our place. So now we have a very secure border, beautiful border. I built hundreds of miles of wall. Without that, we couldn't have a secure border.
Mr. President, it's clear that you have operational control of the border. I mean, when the numbers hit zero, that is clear for the whole world to see. I'm curious.
3 months in a row.
Right, without new laws even having to be passed. But Mr. President,
now I'm doing something that I'm having such fun with because I'm helping people. I've made Washington, D.C.
Say it again.
It's just an incredible place. In literally 4 days, I have friends that say they're going out to dinner. Did you see what's happening with the restaurants? They're bursting.
Yes,
they're all closing and going bankrupt. I mean, it would be. It would be great. There's a guy named Sean Hannity.
What didn't we read yesterday that it was like the restaurant reservations were down like 20%?
He might take a very lovely young lady that he knows very well to dinner in Washington, and they don't have to. On Hannity, he might take a very lovely young lady. It would be. It would be great. There's a guy named Sean Hannity. He might take a very lovely young lady that he knows very well to dinner in Washington, and they don't have to.
What am I?
They don't have to. And she's sitting right next to you, by the way.
That's right.
I
Mr. President,
don't want to get him in trouble, so I better explain exactly. We don't want any secrets here. But
That's exactly right.
that's the greatest relationship. I hope I'm not breaking any news. This could be the biggest. Hey, this could be the most important thing I said. But let me tell you, those are two.
Is she dating Sean Hannity? How old are these people? What is he even? Why is he saying this? Wait, what the fuck?
Great. Ainsley and Sean, great people. And when they go out to dinner, I don't want to see them get mugged. Now they can go out, they can hold hands, they can walk down the street. They're both superstars. I want to know who makes more money, because she's got to be making a lot.
Mr. President, we're so happy for them. But on a serious note, Mr. President, when you had those world leaders, because this is the topic of conversation for the whole world, when you had them sitting in front of you, did they express concerns about the next president, that they're not going to get the same type of treatment, security guarantees? Part of the deterrent of future attacks is your peace through strength. So did they say to you, Mr. President, we're concerned about the next leader?
They did. We talked about it. It is what it is. I could say the same thing about them. I say, supposing you get a terrible leader in UK or France, or we had Ursula there, who runs the whole gamut. We just made the biggest trade deal in the world. She's in charge of the Commission, the European Commission, and she's the boss. She was there too. That was really an incredible array of people. But they say that actually maybe even more with regard to the economy. We have $17 trillion being invested in the United States and committed.
17
and numbers
trillion.
that nobody's ever seen for AI plants and for this and for that.
What is even? I feel like if you were bored, you could make I'm not this bored yet. You notice that Trump never answers any question. I feel like I've said this sometimes.
Did they express concerns about the next president, that they're not going to get the same type of treatment, security guarantees? Part of the deterrent of future attacks is your peace through strength. So did they say to you, Mr. President, we're concerned about the next leader?
They did. We talked about it. It is what it is. I could say the same thing about them. I say, supposing you get a terrible leader in UK or France, or we had Ursula there, who runs the whole gamut. We just made the biggest trade deal in the world. She's in charge of the Commission, the European Commission, and she's the boss. She was there too. That was really an incredible array of people. But they say that actually maybe even more with regard to the economy. We have $17 trillion being invested in the United States and committed, and numbers that nobody's ever seen for AI plants and for this and for that. And we're taking in trillions and trillions of dollars. That's why we're doing so well. Plants are being built all over the country. Our country has gone from a dead country 1 year ago. We're the hottest country in the world. And every one of those people said it yesterday. They said, in 6 months, you made this the hottest country in the world that we are. We have $17 trillion coming in. And they said, well, what happens if you're no longer president and somebody comes in and cancels the tariffs? And we've invested hundreds of billions of dollars in building these plants, and now you have some anti-business person come in. I said, well, life is full of nasty little surprises, but I don't think it's going to happen. We have a great bench, and the bench is really talented. You see a lot of the people, and I think you're going to get great people in government.
Cool.
Well, President Trump.
Don't know how that answered at all, how, what assurances we have of security things past his presidency or anything, but okay, all right.
We want to thank you so much for joining us this morning. We know that you have lots of other wars around the world that you need to end, and that's more important than anything. So we appreciate you joining us this morning.
No, thank you very much, Charlie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Ainsley, thank you. I hope I didn't get you in trouble with John. No,
we
it's a great couple.
Thank
I'll say it. I like this. It's a great couple. We love them.
God, he keeps bringing it up, and she clearly doesn't want her to talk about it. Oh, my God. Why does he keep bringing this up?
Have a good
Thank you,
time,
Mr.
everybody.
President.
Congratulations for
Thank you,
yesterday.
sir.
Thank you, Mr. Trump.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you all very much.
The
A lot of
45th and
fun.
47th President of the United States.
Want even more Fox News on YouTube? Become
Jesus Christ. I had a very good meeting with distinguished guests Zelensky, Macron, Stubb, Maloney, Starmer, Merz, Ursula von der Leyen. I don't know why he's naming every single person like it's fucking Game of Thrones. Okay. During the meeting, we discussed security guarantees for Ukraine, which guarantees would be provided by the various European countries with coordination of the United States of America. Everyone is very happy about the possibility of peace for Russia and Ukraine. At the conclusion of the meetings, I called President Putin and began the arrangements for a meeting at a location to be determined between Putin and Zelensky. After the meeting takes place, we will have a trilat, which would be the two presidents plus myself. J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, and Steve Witkoff are coordinating with Russia and Ukraine. My God.
Moderator of Meet the Press, Kristen Welker, just sat down exclusively with French President Emmanuel Macron just moments ago following those lengthy peace talks at the White House today. She pressed him on that hot mic moment with President Trump that we saw earlier and whether a ceasefire needs to be reached to hold a trilateral meeting and the role French and American troops could play in the effort to maintain peace. Take a listen.
President Trump was overheard on a microphone talking to you, and he said, quote, I think he wants to make a deal, meaning Putin. I think he wants to make a deal for me. You understand that? As crazy as it sounds. What went through your head when he said that to you?
I think if, at the end of the day, if we have a deal which is compliant with this long-standing and robust peace, this is great news. And your president, indeed, is very confident about the capacity he has to get this deal done, which is a good news for all of us and can break this, I would say, this daily killings, which are the responsibility of the Russian aggressor. So I think it's a great news. My point, and this is why we've worked so hard during the past few months, and we need this convergence, is to be sure that this deal is not detrimental to Ukraine and Europe. And all of us, we want a deal and we want a peace deal. But we want to make sure that this peace, and so this deal, will be something which will allow the Ukrainians to recover the country and live in peace, to be sure that day after this peace deal that they will have sufficient deterrence power not to be attacked again, and to be sure for the Europeans that they will live in peace and security. So this is the nature of the peace, which will be now the core of our work. But I think this is a great news, and indeed your president is very confident about his capacity to get this deal done with President Putin, and it's great.
Let's talk about the issues. You were very firm. You still think a ceasefire is necessary. President Trump, on his way to Alaska, said that he wanted there to be a ceasefire agreement. Otherwise,
I feel like everybody is just getting more orange. Is this like an aging thing? Like I'm getting older and people are looking more orange to me? Or are they all turning orange? Is it?
he said there would be very severe consequences. Do you think a ceasefire is still possible?
I do hope. Let's call it once again truce or ceasefire. But we have to stop the killings. First, for humanitarian reasons. Second, because if we want sincere, reasonable, comprehensive talks in order to build a peace, you cannot do organize this discussion. In the middle of the bombs. Look, today we were with President Zelensky. President Trump called President Putin at the end of our meeting, and we meet again right after this call. In the meantime, the Russian army organized a series of strikes on civilians in Ukraine. So it's impossible for an Ukrainian president and Ukrainian officials to have talks about peace as their country is being destroyed and as their civilians are being killed.
Let me ask you about the discussion over security guarantees.
Yes.
What exactly did you agree to as it relates to security guarantees? Does that mean European troops? And does that mean U.S. troops?
Look, I think for me, it's a very important progress of the past few days that your president expressed the clear commitment of the U.S. to be part of the security guarantees. It's brand new. And last February, when I took the responsibility to gather a series of European leaders with President Zelensky in Paris, and we followed up in London, and we created this coalition of the willing. And it was a reaction to the feeling we had that we could see a temptation to go to a rapid peace, but without any guarantee for Ukraine. And we know what it means. It was Georgia 2008, but it was as well Crimea 2014. And there is full certainty that if you make any peace deal without security guarantee,
it'll happen again.
Russia will never respect its words. Will never comply with its own commitments. So it's for us totally critical, and this is an essential part of any deal for Ukraine and for the Europeans. This is for our own security. So This is a very important progress of the past few days, that the US now is willing to be part of this.
Kristen Welker joins us now live. Kristen, that was just a portion of that interview. You also spoke to President Macron about how optimistic he feels about a deal.
Is she mewing? Look, you can see her mew. Watch her jaw thing here. Watch.
Portion of that interview. You also spoke to President
Boom!
Macron.
Oh my God! You see it turn on, right? She goes into mew mode. This is mew mode. Watch, mew. Watch. Oh, no mew.
You also spoke to President Macron about
mew. Do you see it?
how optimistic he feels about a deal.
Of Finland, Alexander Stubb, as I promised, is with me because he was inside that meeting with Trump and Zelensky today, sitting next to Zelensky across from Trump. Finland, a crucial country for NATO and Europe, sharing an 830-mile border with Russia. In fact, it is the longest European border with Russia, and Finland is part of NATO. So, as we've made the point before, it's not about NATO, even though Putin may say sometimes that it is.
Why are we bringing up Finland? The Baltic. Wait, does nobody know these countries exist? Am I retarded? These are real countries that are in NATO and have shared a border with Russia for 20 years, right? What?
And now the president of Finland, Alexander Stubb, as I promised, is with me because he was inside that meeting with Trump and Zelensky today, sitting next to Zelensky across from Trump. Finland, a crucial country for NATO and Europe, sharing an 830-mile border with Russia. In fact, it is the longest European border with Russia, and Finland is part of NATO. So, as we made the point before, it's not about NATO, even though Putin may say sometimes that it is. President Stubb, I appreciate your time. I'm so glad to talk to you again. I know it has been a long day, and you had to be flexible and go with the flow. Some things happened, unexpected timing, and you know, which speaks to the moment that we're in, the uncertainty. So at one point in this meeting, you're in the room across from Trump. You're sitting next to President Zelensky, and Trump at one point calls Putin in a call that Russia now says was 40 minutes long. I'm so curious, Mr. President, was there any conversation in the room about that call? Did Trump talk to you beforehand about it, or after he got off the phone with Putin?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, this was very much a day.
Why does that matter if your point is still made with Finland? Why do you care so much about the Baltics? Because people say that the whole point of the war starting was that we don't want to have any neighboring countries in NATO with Russia. That was the whole point. Finland is joined after the war, so it's not the same thing. We say, oh, well, this is why they started the war. See, it's because now Finland joined. See, where we were trying to prevent this, right? But the point is that prior to any war, even prior to the invasion with Crimea, there were already NATO states bordering Russia. That's just a total bogus talking point. Bringing up Finland that joined during the wars, we're talking. Some people bring up Norway because of 10 miles of moose land or whatever. No one cares. But like, if you wanted to launch attacks into Moscow, you want to do some crazy shit. Like, you already have countries right here that are, I think, better positioned for it.
Of Team Europe and Team
well,
US.
maybe not a better position than Ukraine, but.
Together supporting Ukraine. So first us Europeans, we had a pre-meeting, and then after that Zelensky had a bilateral meeting with President Trump, and then we spent the better part of 4 hours together with President Trump sussing out what we can do next. And one of the plans was for President Trump to tell President Putin basically what we had decided in the meeting. So yes, it was very coordinated and very constructive. So
you're saying that call, when the meeting sort of got paused, it sounds like what you're saying is because of the conversation that you're having in the room, that you all sort of said, okay, he said, all right, well, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'm going to go call him now. You guys were all in agreement with it. This is sort of how it's sort of.
Nobody is saying that Norway was a founding member of NATO. No one is saying what? No, I keep hearing this talking point. Wait, I can't tell if that person is agreeing. There's this talking point that keeps going around. Putin needs a buffer. Putin wants a buffer. Putin can't have Ukraine join because we don't want NATO states bordering Russia. That's bullshit. Those already exist. But this is one of the biggest talking points that Dave Smith and other retards are giving in the West for why Russia, had to invade Ukraine.
Sort of organically played out?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so basically there were three outcomes of today. The first one was a good conversation on security guarantees. In other words, security guarantees by Europe and coordinated.
She brought it up because this guy is the Finland guy. Two things. One, you're wrong. Because there is no such thing as a Finland guy, because Finns are not real people, okay? Scandinavia doesn't even claim them, all right? Number one. Number two, I just want it to be brought up more because I feel like nobody knows that there were countries that were in NATO that were bordering Russia prior to any invasion. That whole buffer state excuse is fucking bullshit. I just wish more people knew that. That's all I'm saying, okay?
with the United States for Ukraine, and we start that work on concrete things immediately. The second one was a suggestion of a bilateral meeting between Zelensky and Putin, and that was what President Trump was testing with President Putin, and President Putin had agreed to do that meeting. And then the third step is after the bilateral meeting.
It's not binary, though. 3 NATO borders are worse for Russia than 4. Okay, well, now they have like 5. So, I mean, like, also, bullshit! Stop repeating that truism. Ask every single person that goes on these stupid shows. Oh, Dave Smith. Oh, random retard number 482. So NATO bordering states are a threat to Russia, you're saying? Are we saying that they're going to invade Russia? I want to hear that. At least make them answer that question. You're telling me that Russia is afraid of Ukraine being in NATO because they're afraid of a NATO invasion from Russia? That's really what they're afraid of? Seriously? Get the fuck out of here.
If everything goes well, which is of course always a big if when you're dealing with Putin, there'll be a trilateral meeting. So I think this was one of these meetings where we kind of took 3 steps forward rather than any backwards.
Do you know what Trump said to Putin on the phone? I mean, what were the specifics that he put out there?
Well, I mean, President Trump then, after the call, we agreed to meet in the Oval Office, and we had a very thorough briefing by him of the conversation. But obviously, in diplomacy, what happens in the Oval Office stays in the Oval Office when the media is not in there.
Well, that isn't always true, but I appreciate that you are taking the high road and doing the right thing. I don't mean to laugh about it, but in this context, you're talking about he gets on the phone with Putin, then you all go into the Oval Office. There was a moment where I believe Trump was talking to your colleague.
Wait. He looks like he could be his dad, right? You think? Is it president or prime minister for Finland? That he could be Jake Tapper's dad? Absolutely he could be. Oh my God, chat's molding because of how right I am. Oh my God, chat's molding because of how right I am.
Colleague Keir Starmer, and he said something that was caught on a hot mic. He was talking about Putin. Let me play it for you, Mr. President.
I think he wants to make a deal for me. You understand that? As crazy as it sounds.
So you have told, I know in the past, Mr. President, Trump that no one can trust Putin, right? You have the longest land border in Europe with Russia.
How old do you think this guy is? Guess his age. You get plus 3 years, mistake range. 62. Fuck!
Russia. And you have a lot of troops that are on that border, as you've told me. And that's because of Russia, right, to state the obvious. What is your response when Trump says something, even at this point, that he believes that Putin will make a deal for him because of him?
Well, I mean, I've been involved in peace mediation before, and I think that President Trump is genuinely trying to bring this war to an end, and we're all working in that direction. But of course, we are dealing with President Putin, and we do have to understand that his, basic strategic aims have not changed, and they are threefold. He wants to see Russia as a superpower. He wants to split the West, and he wants to deny the sovereignty of Ukraine. So that's the reality that we're dealing with. The reality is also that we have, a minimum of 1,000 people dead or wounded every day. So we're trying to do our best through diplomatic means to find a solution to this conflict, to Russia's war of aggression.
And when you talk about Russia's war of aggression and the history of what Putin wants, it's personal to you. And not just because you happen to be the president of Finland and you've got the largest land border, all those things that I keep repeating. I mean, it's personal to you. Your father, your grandfather were both born in cities that Finland was forced to cede to the then Soviet Union, cities that are part of Russia now. So, I mean, do you have any doubts about Putin's ambitions when it comes to expanding Russian territory?
Not true. I had no idea. Which cities?
Well, I mean, we've seen that in both Georgia and...
Are there even 5 million? Oh. Finland has more people than Norway? What the fuck is even going on up there? These guys have too many resources and shit. Norway's lucky. What was it? Wasn't it like some fucking random Iraqi dude went up to Norway and using his, I guess, Arab senses, he was like, oh, oil, and he found it 2005 or whatever. And Norway was like, oh shit, we're fucking rich. They're lucky that shit didn't get found earlier, because we would have invaded these motherfuckers. We would own that entire peninsula, and it would be our oil, okay?
And in Ukraine. But, I keep on stressing the basics of it. So statehood is based on independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. And after World War II, which for us was the Winter War and the War of Continuation, Finland retained independence, unlike, for instance, our Baltic friends, unfortunately. But we lost sovereignty to decide, and we lost territory. But the difference there is that at that time, Finland was alone. But now Ukraine is not alone. And that's why I think it's so important that all of us, both Team Europe and Team US, keep on working for the independence, for the sovereignty, and the territorial integrity of Ukraine. And to be honest, I think if we work on the security guarantees, that will guarantee sovereignty and it will strengthen territorial integrity as well.
Bro, unironically, and I know she wasn't on the ballot, okay, it was Kamala, who I think is okay. I don't really know Kamala's like foreign policy understanding or knowledge. If we had this Europe right now with these people, this war with Ukraine, and Hillary Clinton was our president, there's like a non-zero chance that either Russia would be like a destroyed state or Putin would be fucking coup d'etat. It would be over. They would actually be obliviated. It would be crazy.
President Stube, I appreciate your time, and thank you so much. I'm glad to speak with you again, sir.
Also, Stube, come on, bro. Sounds like teenage slang for a weed vape pen. Pass the Stube, bro. Okay, what is this?
Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
Why does he always look like this now? Can somebody tell me?
Joins.
I hope you're miserable, little bro. I hope you're miserable.
Us now. All right, Secretary, you were in the room this afternoon with President Trump, Zelensky, all the European leaders. Was there a big moment that happened?
Well, I think the whole thing was a big moment. Unprecedented, really, when you think about all these European leaders came here, 7 that were there. And that included the head of NATO and the head of the EU. And they all said the same thing, which is this, after 3 years of sort of deadlock and no talks and no change in circumstances, this is the first time where there seems to be some movement. Now, look, this is a complicated war. There's no doubt about it. I mean, this has been going on for 3.5 years. A lot of people have died. A lot of territories exchanged back and forth. So it's not an easy thing to unwind. But nothing was happening on this war. Literally, the only option that we were given under the previous administration was continue to fund Ukraine for however much they need, for however long it takes. And now you have people actually talking about pathways towards ending it. Now, it's going to take a little bit more work and a little bit more time, but we are making progress. It's not me saying it.
I know you're just rage baiting, but it was Clinton and Obama that allowed Putin to fuck Georgia and Crimea. They kicked the can down the road with Russia and basically gave up on Ukraine. So I thought Georgia was under Bush. Is that like 2006 or 8? Russia invade Georgia 2008. This sounds mean. I think that I think people weren't happy with this in Europe, but I feel like Georgia is like enough of a, what would you call like Eurasian country that it's like a bit more kind of whatever-ish, so we could all kind of put it out of mind a little bit more. Not that it's good. And then the Crimea stuff, I think came off the Crimea stuff came off the back of Euromaidan, and like there was a leader from Ukraine that was ousted, and Ukraine was a pretty corrupt, crazy fucking country, and there's a lot of crazy shit going on there. And Russia does have some kind of strongish or like mediumish claim to Sevastopol, the base. Still not good. But then also keeping in mind, Obama came into the presidency off the backs of like the growing huge discontent with Iraq and Afghanistan. So could Obama have done better? I'm not sure. I don't know how much political will there would have been in the United States for anything against Russia there. Although it could have been better. But by the time you get to where Russia is just fully invading Ukraine, like I think you have way more, you could mobilize a lot more in Europe. Obviously, there was an appetite for it. And then for, I think for the United States, I think if we had a different leader, I think we could have.
That is,
and if Trump wasn't in the picture.
Virtually every leader there today said that in front of the cameras.
Oh yeah, Europe was also being gripped by the Syrian refugee crisis started in that was 2011 to 2013. right? Syrian civil war, big civil war was 2011 to 2013 or whatever, because it was the Arab Spring and all that happened, and then Syria kind of fell into civil war, and the huge exodus of people started in, I want to say it was 2013. Syrian refugee crisis. Somebody tried saying 2014. I don't know if there's like numbers like year after year. This was after Georgia, though, to be fair.
And they're saying it for a reason, because it's true, and they're witnessing it, and they've been a part of it.
So these European nations, and some of these are NATO countries, are they willing to put troops on the ground in Ukraine to cement this peace deal? Would that make Ukraine kind of like a NATO ally?
Well, what's being contemplated, look, any sovereign country in the world has a right to enter into security alliances with other countries. You know, it's not just NATO. We have such alliances with South Korea. We have it with Japan. Other countries have it with each other. And so I think everyone would acknowledge it. Well, what's being contemplated, look, any sovereign country in the world has a right to enter into security alliances with other countries. You know, it's not just NATO. We have such alliances with South Korea. We have it with Japan. Other countries have it with each other. And so I think everyone would acknowledge, including, by the way, for the first time, the Russian side, under President Trump's sort of pressure or, a suggestion, is that, in fact, Ukraine post-conflict has a right to enter into security agreements with other countries. And we will work with our European allies and non-European countries, by the way, to build such a security guarantee. We're working on that right now. We'll continue to work on that. And that'll be something that'll have to be in place after a peace deal, so that Ukraine can feel safe moving forward. And we're coordinating that as we speak. We're involved in the coordination of it. So yeah, there are a number of countries that are willing to step forward and provide Ukraine security guarantees. But as the Ukrainians have said to us, and I think have said publicly, the strongest security guarantee they can come up with in their future is to have a strong military moving forward. And that's the other dynamic that's changed. We're no longer giving Ukraine weapons. We're no longer giving Ukraine money. We are now selling them weapons, and European countries are paying for it through NATO. They are using NATO to buy the weapons and transfer them to Ukraine. That's another big change from the way this war was approached just under the Biden administration.
When it comes to it, Iraq really was the worst foreign policy decision America ever did. The big issue, the thing is there was there was an argument for deposing Saddam, and there was an argument for him not cooperating with investigators. The two big bads, the first big bad was engaging what was tantamount to lying to the American public, lying dramatically about the strength of evidence you had, that there were WMDs over there, that evidence didn't really exist in a strong form, one. And two was the mission creep. It was the idea of what is a permanent occupation of Iraq to transform that government into something completely different afterwards. What does that look like? And I just don't think we ever had a clear vision of what the fuck that was. And it drew our time out so long there,
Example. Absolutely. And the minerals deal is also a nice security guarantee in another way. Were you in the room when the president talked to Vladimir Putin?
I was. And in that conversation, what came from it is that, the president suggested that Zelensky and Putin meet. So we're working on that now to try to set that.
People say Vietnam was quite bad. I mean, I don't know. Again, history here's not my strong suit, but was it? I'm not sure. Let's assume that, I guess I don't know how long it took for South Korea to become an insanely prosperous country, but look at what South Korea's become. If there was a chance that Vietnam could have been split like that as well, would that be bad? There's been some pretty amazing shit that's come out of South Korea, Taiwan. I think Hong Kong is the not financial capital of the world. They have a ton of financialization stuff going on there. These are amazing places. I don't know, would these places have necessarily existed without Western imperialism and finance? I don't know.
What came from it is that, the president suggested that Zelensky and Putin meet. So we're working on that now to try to set that up for them to meet somewhere, which again would be unprecedented. And then if that goes well, hopefully the next meeting will be a meeting between Presidents Putin, Trump, and Zelensky, where we hope to finalize a deal. We're not there yet, but that's what we're aiming towards. And that's one of the things that was discussed today is how to get to that point. But just the fact that Putin...
The issue is that South Vietnam was just a shit, quote unquote, country. You say that, and I don't know what it is, but I feel like some of these countries came up in a generation or two. Didn't Taiwan go from being basically a shithole in the ground of people who didn't even brush their teeth to the chip manufacturing capital of the world with all these insane companies and everything that are coming out of it? I feel like Taiwan, very, 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 very quickly, out of nowhere, is oh shit, this is one of the most important pieces of land on the planet right now. I think South Korea also was pretty quick as well. I think Japan also, after World War II, Japan's entire domestic capacity for production, everything was fucking annihilated. I think they literally had their own fortress arc, and then they come out as some of the leading electronics manufacturers in the world. A lot of these Southeast Asian countries, it's not that they were always... It's not even that they were. A lot of these places were literally imagine how in America we think of the jungles of Vietnam or whatever, primitive peoples. I think we would have said that about Taiwan, maybe not as much about Japan, but about South Korea a while ago. And very, very quickly, these countries become these massive economic and technological powerhouses.
to finalize a deal. We're not there yet, but that's what we're aiming towards, and that's one of the things that was discussed today is how to get to that point. But just the fact that Putin is saying, sure, I'll meet with Zelensky, that's a big deal. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to leave that room best friends. I'm not saying they're going to leave that room with a peace deal. But I think the fact that people are now talking to each other, this wasn't happening for 3.5 years. This was a stalemated war of death and destruction. And let me tell you something, this president hates war, and he hates it. He thinks it's a
Thanks, Destiny. I did most of the work. You're welcome, Zinc.
waste of money and a waste of lives, and he has made it a priority, President Trump has, to bring about peace. If he sees an opportunity to step in and broker a peace, he wants to do it. He's been successful already 6 times in 6 months in achieving that, and he wants to achieve it with Ukraine and Russia as well.
So the timeline, it looks ideally, is Vladimir Putin meets with Zelensky, and then President Trump and Zelensky and Vladimir Putin meet, the three of them, and hopefully cement some sort of peace deal then. The issue about giving land back seems to be the sticking point. Is that the main sticking point? Is that Russia wants to keep the land that it's taken militarily? And how do you get around that? What's the negotiation over there?
Yeah.
Surprising to hear power politics and who can do what to achieve what, no matter rules of engagement from Destiny. What combination of words do I have to say to express when I'm like describing a thing that happened versus describing like a moral prescription for a thing that could happen? Like, I don't understand, like, I think I've said before, you know, like the Nazis led the largest mass-scale slaughter of humans in all of human history. Like the concentration camps and the death camps were insane. Like, how do I say that? So somebody's like, wow, I can't believe Destiny's saying that we should have death camps and it's really good to slaughter 12 million people. He's giving the Nazis mad press. Like, okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's helpful to go into all the details of that, obviously, because these negotiations, frankly, work best when they're done privately and in our negotiation setting.
But you don't want to do it on national TV on Jesse Waters' primetime, Secretary? I mean, that's just
no,
crazy.
We'll be more. When we have a deal, I'll describe it to you for sure. But look, that's why you got to give these guys space to work. I mean, they have their own constituencies, okay? They have their own considerations, and you don't want to give away one side's leverage in that regard. But let me just say this about it. I think everyone understands that some of the key elements of bringing this about is Ukraine has to feel safe moving forward. In essence, they have to believe that at the end of this war, they are in a position to never get invaded again. I think what's also true, and I think it's common sense, and I don't know why it's so hard for a lot of people to understand it, is in any negotiation to bring about the end of a war or any conflict for that matter, it's going to require both sides to receive, but also to give. In essence, one side's not going to get 100% here. Each side is going to have to make some concessions. And obviously land or
I don't know what chance means in that sense. America was never in the position of South Korean style occupation for South Vietnam. Is that true? Why not? I truly don't know the answer. Because it wasn't I'm literally going by a meme I saw on Reddit. But like the South Korean war was like really, really, really close to being lost at one point. No, in terms of like troop movements back and forth. Maybe it was never that close to being lost. And I'm just. Destiny, can you say that Rolling Thunder? Can you say then that Rolling Thunder was a heinous operation for I just looked it up, I don't know what the fucking names of these are. A sustained U.S. bombing campaign against North Vietnam during the Vietnam War. I don't know enough of the details to know or not how bad this was. I can't say. I know that there's like the meme has always said it was really bad, but I just don't know enough, and I don't trust anybody else's recounting of history without me reading through it. Under casualties and losses, I see 20,000 North Vietnamese soldiers and 30 to 65,000 civilians killed. That seems pretty bad. Seems pretty bad to me.
where you draw those lines, where the war stops, is going to be part of that conversation. And it's not easy, and maybe it's not even fair, but it's what it takes in order to bring about an end to a war. And that's been true in every war. The only wars that don't end that way are the ones that have unconditional surrender by one side or the other, and we're not going to see that in this conflict. So obviously the issue of that will be talked about, and the president's been very clear. In the end, what those lines look like are up to Putin and up to Zelensky and up to the Ukraine.
The Incheon landing was fucking badass in South Korea? What? Isn't Incheon inland? That's where I stayed there for a month. It's a port city? Is it? Wait, oh, how did I not know this? I guess I never left the house. What the fuck? Okay. I thought this was in a totally different spot. Where's Seoul? Wait, what country, man? Hello? Oh. Top. Right there. Oh. Oh, it was close to Seoul. Oh. Oh, Seoul's just closer to the coast than I thought. Okay, whatever. Fuck. could read this at one point. I don't remember now. Rip. I think the closest I've ever been to death in my entire life, you know, some people are like, I wish I could, when I die, ask God, like, when was the closest I was to getting killed or whatever, you know, what, you know, these moments in your life, was taking a taxi from, I don't know where the airport is in South Korea, the international one. Is it in Seoul? A taxi from there to Incheon? Oh my fucking God. This motherfucker. I thought I was going to die. I thought I drove crazy. This guy was wild. Ever been to any Asian countries? Kind of. I mean, South Korea and Taiwan. I guess I was out in Taiwan a bit. In Taipei, I think. It's not like Taipei 101 and all that.
Side to decide what each one can live with. We are going to be there to facilitate that and make that possible and make sure that both sides are talking. And by the way, President Trump is the only leader in the world, acknowledged by all the Europeans, the only leader in the world that can talk to both of them and bring them both to a meeting is Donald J. Trump, the president.
Shut the fuck up. Video footage of chemical weapons being used during the Korean conflict. Black Wall! I don't remember this. Oh no.
소수병력 희생시켰어. 비행기. 예. 자, 이렇게 해서 자, 가면 뒤쪽으로 플레이그. 야, 플레이그가 한 방입니다. 이제 베스는 한 방짜리예요. 그렇습니다. 플레이그 한 대 맞은 저 베스는 히드라가 한 번씩만 공격하면 다 터집니다. 야, 아스칼리 베스 뒤에 네 대. 저희가 말씀드리기에 지금 가장 아빠.
Oh yeah. Also, I spoke way too soon on ContraPoints. I'm sorry. Did I remember to do the knock on wood? Maybe I forgot. But we read a ContraPoints tweet that was based, and I was like, oh my God, and she hasn't deleted it yet? And I think she heard me because she deleted her whole Twitter account. Rip!
And finally, we have to ask this tonight. WWJHD. What would Joe do? Well, as in Biden, of course, he could never have gotten this done. He spent 3 years cheerleading and funding the war with zero attempts at bold diplomacy.
That's all we ask for is fairness with the media. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being so fair. Thank you, Donald.
All the time.
But he loves it. He loves it. For he does it always.
He's the president. Oh man, can I speak Italian? He's the president. He does it always. That's what she said.
He loves it. He loves it. For he does it always. I never want to speak with my friend.
He's a very good player, golfer, you know.
Yeah, I know.
He went to college.
But he says you always...
That's all.
Oh, okay. Who cares about this? At Destiny, it just seems weird to extol the virtues of a possibly liberal Vietnam when we committed a lot of abuses that were made international war crimes after the conflict. I mean, bro, back then everybody was committing crazy shit. I mean, it was a crazy time, okay? It was a Cold War. We were all on some wild shit back then. It was just a different time, okay? You can't judge me by my 2006 Battle.net logs unless you're willing to bring up everybody else's logs, okay? Are Italians actually good at making pizza? No! Common misconception. People think that Italians are good at making pizza. They don't even know basic geometry, okay? Their pizzas aren't even shaped like circles.
One of the things Donald Trump hates the most is when there's somebody he can't control. And right now that somebody is California Governor Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom...
The fact that Trump brought him up is actually so crazy. I don't know if I'm in like a padded cell somewhere and as the mind gets older, you can only hallucinate so much, so your worlds start to collide and collapse into each other because you just can't maintain as many delusional fantasies. But it's so funny seeing that. I feel like Trump and Hasan have so much crossover in terms of like how they respond to things and how they try to control their environment. So like Hasan will fixate more on me when he feels like there's other stuff out of his control. He's trying really hard to sell this thing of like, this liberal streamer wants me to die. Ah! He's like trying so hard to sell it. And he only brings me up when he's getting super fucking triggered about me. It's very obvious, very easy to tell. When we listened to Trump drop the Newsom thing earlier, and he's like, oh yeah, this Newsom in California, whatever. It's because you know he's fucking mad. You know how fucking mad he is.
Dropped a brutal anti-Trump ad, steamrolling Trump. This is a digital ad for the California Democrats' redistricting campaign. This is what Gavin Newsom announced last week, which, if successful, could effectively neuter the Donald Trump presidency. This is sharp, polished stuff. It goes directly at Trump. Trump hates this. Take a look at this.
Wake up, America. Wake up to what Donald Trump is doing. Here he is once again trying to rig the system. He doesn't believe in the rules. We can't stand back and watch this democracy disappear district by district. We have got to meet fire with fire. We're asking the voters for their consent to do midterm redistricting to level the playing field all across the United States. On November 4th, you have the power to stand up to Trump. Donald Trump, you have poked the bear, and we will punch back. This is a serious moment. Wake up.
This is very, very good. Now, I know that my audience is split about Gavin Newsom. I know some of you absolutely despise the guy.
Oh no, because he has a lefty audience?
You say, look at what he's done to California. He has not brought California to prosperity. Now, that's one faction of the audience. I have others writing to me saying, David, this is the only guy fighting right now. I get you've got Democrats filing some lawsuits and doing town halls, but the guy really fighting here, and he's a governor, but he's fighting on the national stage. The only guy is Gavin Newsom. I'm going to get back to Gavin Newsom in a moment. What is so good about this entire campaign is that it is hitting Trump's power grabs on gerrymandering. It's framing this California gerrymandering campaign, which is what it is. You know, they call it redistricting. Yes, it's partisan redistricting. We call that gerrymandering. That's what it is. We got to own it. I'm against gerrymandering, but I'm not going to unilaterally disarm and let Republicans do it and win elections, and we're going to just stand aside. I don't want that.
Unilateral disarmament, yes!
And the visuals and the tone, it really feels like a presidential campaign ad more than a local issue spot. Now, there's a couple realities there. Number one, the redistricting concept is a national concept.
I will say, though, listen, whether or not Gavin Newsom can run for president or not, this is so far away. It's so far away. We're not even guaranteed that our country or planet will exist at that point, okay? So one fight at a time. When you start to make everything sound like a future fight for presidency, it ends up becoming a little bit too narcissistic. Like, it doesn't need to be that way. And there are other things that are worth fighting for besides just the presidency. I know that we're all very like nationally, politically obsessed just because of how national, like all of our social medias and everything. That's what we see all the time. But there are other really, really important fights, you know? It doesn't always have to be about the, you know, who's going to be president, what's the president.
Because if Kathy Hochul says we're going to do the same thing in New York, and J.B. Pritzker says we're going to do the same thing in Illinois, you start to get a pretty powerful national movement. But there's a bigger signal here, and I know you all know what it is. It looks very clear that Gavin Newsom is positioning himself for a presidential run. He is nationalizing a message. It's not California versus Trump. It's the United States versus Donald Trump.
Kind of, but he's exercising his role and his power as the chief executive of California to bring together other chief executives of the states. So like we can say that it's an angle for president, but it's also demonstrating the truly the importance of the American system, of our federalist system, that every state has a governor, has his own president. That's what a governor is, the president of the state, right? And he has his own legislature, and it is up to him, as stated in the Constitution, that they have, lots of powers to figure out. Technically, it's not constitutional how they like draw districts or whatever. I mean, partially with the census and everything, but like it's there's an important part of the states' rights to, it is in the Constitution, because everything not directly granted to the federal government is then left to the states, right?
The ad drops right as anti-Trump protests are exploding nationally, and so the timing is a major factor in what's going on here. What's my view?
I feel like part of it is that the Dems are sorely lacking for leadership, and Gavin is the first to feel like a leader. I feel like it's less about he'll be president, more about he'll lead our anti-Trump movement. Yeah, sure. Yes. And the important thing is that because he's fighting, because there are fights that are being caused around things that he's doing now, okay, just barely, but you're starting to see this shift back to where the liberals are fighting for the media agenda. Now, how people cover it or what people say about it is going to be left to the media, the alternative media, whoever talks about it. But at least we're dictating the agenda now, right? Now it's about, is Gavin Newsom unhinged or not? Now it's about, is Gavin Newsom doing the right thing? What does the redistricting look like? Is it supposed to be, is he being anti-democratic? But it's not about, what did this trans author at The Atlantic say about swimming, or what new, gay storybook with a dick in it that I just find in a student library in Arkansas? It's not this fucking irrelevant, retarded shit. These are more important and more meaningful fights, and ones where we should be able to stand heavy on factual ground for.
About Gavin Newsom as a Democratic presidential candidate. I'm not going to be cagey here. Okay, I'm going to give all the information to you up front. It's extraordinarily early. I don't even know who's going to run in 2028. Is Pete Buttigieg going to run? Is Congresswoman AOC going to run? What about Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro or Gretchen Whitmer? I just don't know who's going to run yet. I can't pick who I like the best until I know who is running. What I do feel very strongly about is that I want a primary where candidates must earn the nomination. Fight it out. I'm ready for it. The bench is so deep. And I know that the right loves to say, oh, Democrats have nobody. They've got a bunch of 80-year-olds whose careers are over. What, Bernie? He'll be 90 at the end of the next presidential term in early 90s. No. That's a total distortion of what's going on. There are almost too many good people. And certainly among those good people.
Okay, I don't care about this, but hold on, I'm sorry. I've dramatically curbed my short-form content consumption, but I still look at some stuff. Bro, what was this? I saw this last night.
Dance on me? Dance on me?
Sure, what is this for?
Just do it.
Okay, jeez, you have to yell at me. Music or no music?
No music.
What are these streams?
Everybody get in here, just relax.
Also, I saw this one. Only two.
Asking, how did you know he was there? You have wall hacks. That's not true. See, what I do have is this. And as soon as something moves, he tells me. Now, if you want to call that cheating, be my guest. But I'm pretty sure
one of
this
the
is
things
not.
Donald Trump hates the most.
Oh, Gavin.
Is or at the debate. The other thing.
Oh, we saw this. Also, I think everybody can see that this is ridiculous. Now, these guys are less extreme versions of me, so they don't have quite as much friction. But I feel like even in my comments, I'll see people poke fun of like Donut Operator and shit. It's like, wait, why are you guys so mad about Destiny's edgy jokes? I feel like at least independents can see how ridiculous.
The other thing is, or at the debate. The other thing for me is that for the last week, Gavin Newsom, and why am I giving him advice? You have to stop it with the Twitter thing. I don't know where his wife is. If I were his wife, I would say, "What? You are making a fool of yourself. Stop it. Do not let your staff tweet. And if you're doing it yourself, put the phone away and start over. And if he's got a big job as governor of California.
These guys are being digmatized by the two pansexual trans interns that are running the Gavin Newsom fucking Twitter account. They are actually being psychologically terrorized by this Twitter account.
If he wants an even bigger job, he has to be a little bit more serious. The thing is, or at the debate.
Stop tweeting like that. I don't know. Now I have headcanon. Okay. What is this stupid? Do you think that Trump is like not spamming caps because of the Gavin Newsom account? Jesus Christ. I don't know. I'm good. Because that'd be pretty funny. Oh, got a few caps, a little bit in here. What the fuck is this? Okay, what is this RFK shit? Why did I click? RFK Jr.'s COVID warning finally proven. Liberals stunned. pro.nhsreports.org. The health implications of this shocking video will leave you speechless. Please make sure your speakers are turned on. Are they? Can you hear?
I'm Benjamin Cross for Natural Health Response.
Okay.
And friend, it's finally happened.
I hate these fucking ads. He's going to talk for like 3 minutes without telling us what actually happened because he's trying to sell a fucking supplement. And by supplement, I mean ivermectin.
RFK Jr. is now the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services. But it was not easy. Throughout his entire career, RFK Jr. has put his reputation on the line by being one of the first to speak out. He led the pack in warning that COVID-19 originated from a lab leak in Wuhan, China. He was at the forefront of speaking out against deadly microplastics and the devastating effects they're having on America's health. And he's been railing against corruption within the FDA for decades. And what has he gotten in return? Mainstream medicine has labeled RFK Jr. a quack, an alarmist, and a conspiracy theorist. But guess what? It now appears that he was right. Multiple U.S. intelligence agencies, including the FBI, CIA, and Department of Energy, now believe that COVID-19 was most likely originated from a Wuhan lab leak. The official White House website even lists a Wuhan lab leak as the origin of COVID-19. Microplastics are now being linked to diabetes, stroke, and even cancer. And 9 of the last 10 FDA commissioners have gone on to work for Big Pharma, a group they were paid to oversee. Time and time again, RFK Jr. was first. Time and time again, RFK Jr. was mocked. And time again, RFK Jr. was right. And even now that he's an official member of President Trump's cabinet, the pattern is starting all over again. There are 5 deadly hidden epidemics playing out right now in America. And even though RFK Jr. is again trying to raise the alarm, mainstream medicine has its head stuck firmly in the sand. That's why today we're shining a bright spotlight on what we believe are RFK Jr.'s top 5 hidden epidemics killing American citizens. The first one alone affects hundreds of millions of Americans. And if you were born before January 1st, 1965, then you're more at risk than anyone. But that's not all. RFK Jr. has also taken dead aim on the FDA. In one of his first speeches as Secretary of HHS, he called for them to finally end their corrupt dealings with Big Pharma. And he's calling for life-saving solutions that have been suppressed by Big Pharma's greed to finally be brought into the light. And that's exactly what we're doing today. In addition to the top 5 epidemics, you're also going to hear about real, natural alternatives to deadly drugs, treatments that have been actively ignored or sidelined by mainstream medicine. Imagine a natural cancer treatment so strong it can shrink deadly tumors to...
Okay, I'm back. What did I miss? I didn't have my speakers on, so I wasn't even listening to this. What was it? Literally nothing? He's almost there? Oh.
Almost nothing in just 30 days, and help patients avoid grueling surgeries. It exists, and it's being quietly studied by the U.S. government, and patients are calling it a miracle. Or how about an all-natural Alzheimer's milkshake that starts working in just 2...
Just watched your combo with the Twitter Files journalist, and I think it's your best work. These guys getting notoriety and status while absolving themselves of any responsibilities and saying, yeah, true. I wish I could do more, like... Maybe it'll change after the midterms, the next election. I wish I could do more, like, in-depth debate discussion where, like, knowledge is important. I can't believe how disappointing that Israel-Palestine convo was with Moeen Rabbani and Finkelstein. Ugh.
2 hours. Imagine a simple immune booster that's been shown to kill almost 100% of the rhinovirus responsible for cold and flu.
Immune booster?
It's real and scientifically shown to be 100 times more powerful than some of the most popular antibiotics on the market. Now picture a natural diabetes solution that starts lowering blood sugar levels within 60 minutes.
Holy shit!
Even better, there are no dangerous drugs or life-altering side effects.
What?
It's real. They're all real. And they have the power to bring down Big Pharma.
Holy shit, what is it?
Exactly why RFK Jr. is still being smeared.
Okay.
Even after he's been confirmed to one of the highest health positions in the country.
Okay.
They simply don't want you knowing these options exist.
Okay.
And that's exactly why we're going to reveal everything in this video.
What is it?
It's a lot to take in, but it could just save your life. So grab a pen and paper and let's begin. On January 30th, 2025, RFK Jr. testified before a Senate Confirmation Committee on Capitol Hill, and he left the room stunned. A Democrat senator mockingly asked him if he still stood by his position that EMF radiation from sources like Wi-Fi and 5G could cause cancer. And the whole room expected him to back down. The smart thing to do would be to accept the mainstream position that EMFs were perfectly harmless.
Okay, I don't care. Never mind. Is the interim posting this drunk, high, or both? High-ranking, super senior, deep state officials are posting these. We are very sober. Fake news. There's a whole team of pros behind this, all taking our directions from the governor. And for the record, so we're clear, great tweets equal from the governor, flop tweets equal created by the clueless intern. Wait, do we know who these two people are? Nice dye job, by the way. Cute bow tie. Oh, is this one of the guys? Director of Communications for California Governor, Gavin Newsom.
Play 3v3 here. Starts out with the Minnie Mouse, calling it, hangs up immediately, as you do at that opening. Oh, he chokes her out. Oh, round over, okay. That was an impressive first round. That was pretty easy. What we got now? Oh, fire truck. He's wearing the hat too, so we could do the double spin. Sets it up by knocking him over. Yeah, I would tower here. 2 blocks, nice. All right, it's time to double spin. There's the hat. Oh, he went too far. Oh, is this guy a rookie? That's tough. We got boxing glove, you can just knock everything down. Why do you leave the tower? Is he setting up for something? Oh, he's got the light. He could spin it. He could spin it. Wow. Wow. Oh, yeah, this guy's pretty good. We got the doctor. He's going to use the stethoscope. Just going to scope around. 4 and 1 on top. Pretty good move. Good scouting. What we got? Dinosaur? Oh, he can use the roar. That was impressive. Oh, but he's got Lunchbox. Oh, Lunchbox completely counters this. You can just put everything in there. Yeah. Wow. I haven't seen the dinosaur countered that casually in a while. Wait, what we got now? Oh, it's the xylophone. Dun 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 dun. Yes, perfect.
Okay.
In California, Governor Gavin Newsom's redistricting fight is gaining steam as Democrats there respond to what they're calling a power grab from President Trump in Texas. Here's the congressional map in California as it stands right now. And here's the new proposed map, which would net Democrats an additional 5 congressional seats. Here's what California Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren said about it earlier this afternoon.
We decided as a delegation that we could not just stand there and allow Trump to distort the next election and continue to harm the people who we represent. And so we have worked to try and identify a map that is consistent with the goals that we believe in.
Let's bring in NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin in Los Angeles with the very latest. So, Dana, Democrats seem to be saying, hey, we are moving full steam ahead. The state legislature, they returned from recess today, right? What happened and how do we expect all of this to play out?
Yes, to make sure that every state has an independent redistricting commission, similar to what California currently has. Ellison?
Former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger told the New York Times that he, quote, promised the people of California that we were going to create a commission that would be independent of the politicians and there would be an independent citizens commission drawing the lines. So I'm not going to go back on my promise. I'm going to fight for my promise. Explain that to us. For those of us who don't live in California, he is not the current governor. How much sway would he even have on this?
Well, you know, he's a popular figurehead in the state, former governor of California. He hasn't really been overly involved in politics in recent years, but for some, he may sway voters, and for some, he may not. It certainly did not appear to sway Democratic legislators who, again, are moving forward with their redistricting plan. We do have a poll, a recent poll from Politico that shows 64% of Californians support keeping the independent redistricting commission, which could be very telling for the November election if we get there. This is a deep blue state, so if this measure goes to voters, they could likely approve it to circumvent the redistricting that is happening in Texas. And Governor Gavin Newsom's office has said and wants to be clear that if Texas or any other states stop their plans to redistrict, then California, all of this would essentially go away. But they are definitely putting up a fight, and it could go either way here. Ellison?
Interesting stuff. NBC's Dana Griffin, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
How can MAGA accuse California to be the most gerrymandered, but somehow they can still squeeze 5 extra seats? It's just, everybody just says random shit to win debates. Is this a hot take? I'm about to drop a very, very, very hot take, okay? I think that Terminator 2 is an amazing movie. What's the best Terminator movie? Terminator 2 is just an amazing movie. But I actually think that there's room here, okay? If somebody were to try hard, I feel like Terminator 2 could be vastly improved with a dub on Connor's voice. If somebody took like the time to like record the audio proper and everything, I think that you could dramatically improve it because his voice is fucked in that movie. I think the story is apparently he was going through puberty or something, but it is like distractingly bad how much dubbing there is in that movie because of his voice, and it's fucked. Somebody needs to go do a redub on it. Terminator 2 is a legendary movie, though. God damn. Where did this take come from? I don't know. I started watching Terminator 2 clips the other day, and then I was reminded of how fucked his voice is. Dubbing was really bad back then too. You could easily hear the difference. Yeah, I don't know if they just like back then, maybe in the 90s, they didn't understand like space, that like things can be close or far from each other. So it sounds like when they dubbed it, they literally just had him go into a sound booth like, hello, oh no, Terminator, don't shoot me. And it stands out like a sore thumb. And every single word's dubbed, yeah. It ended with the same one. I thought the ending of Terminator 3 was okay-ish. Yeah, that was like an okay. Show an example? I don't know. Well, now I'm going to pick all the best. Oh my God, when he first shows up. Is his voice crazy dubbed here?
Quarters, I'll be back, all right? Cool.
Oh no, that was real. Hold on. Maybe when he goes to die? Spoiler alert.
No! I'm sorry.
Fuck, I'll rewatch this whole movie and I'll tell you the horrible spots of it, okay? This is an amazing movie, all right? Where were we? Ask Rock. Texas House redistricting committee advances bill with new congressional maps. California Democrats unveiled legislation to vote on new maps to counter Texas. Texas House of Representatives Committee on Redistricting voted out of committee Monday evening a new version of the bill with proposed new congressional maps after considering a version with some changes from the originally proposed maps. This sets up the bill to be considered on the House floor after the House's calendars committees schedules it, which means the new maps are set to continue moving forward. Wait, we're done with this. Oh, this is for Texas. Okay, sorry. My understanding is this is foregone, right? Like there's now they're locking the Dems in the in the House. Like these maps will be changed, I think, right? It's one of the most popular initiatives I've ever passed. Republicans love watching us fight for a great cause. Please pass this map ASAP, Trump wrote in a post on his social media platform. Are people completely over the Epstein shit now? Yeah, we're getting there. Or maybe we are over it at this point. I'm not, yeah. Pretty unbelievable.
Breaking tonight, the Justice Department will miss the House Oversight Committee's deadline to turn over the Epstein files the panel subpoenaed. The original deadline was tomorrow, Tuesday. Oversight Chairman James Comer now says the department will begin turning over documents on Friday. And there's one word that caught our attention: begin. There's no word yet on how long it will take to turn over all of the documents requested, or if all the documents will ever be handed over, for that matter, right? But we can rest assured, folks, James Comer...
Or what all the documents even are, or what all the documents even means, or what... Who knows?
We'll do whatever it takes to put the Trump Justice Department in the best light possible, no matter how much they fall short. Joining us now, Jack Scarola. He's an attorney for several Jeffrey Epstein victims.
It is good to have you with us, sir. So one word that stood out to us was begin. The other word that stood out to us from James Comer is his calling this failure, missing...
Okay, this is a troll. This is not real. What is this face? Come on. Come on. No way. No way. What's going on down here? Also, I'm sorry, this is the last one I'm gonna do today. I should get like 3 per day. This guy right here, if anybody knows who I'm thinking of, I'll give you 20 Bitcoin. Okay. That's okay. I don't expect any of you to know. Okay, there's a Spanish horror movie called The Platform. I feel like this guy looks like the dude's older cellmate.
In a prison known as the vertical...
No, what the fuck? Wait, hold on, maybe not at all.
¿Existe esto del año? Obvio. Comer.
Okay, the lighting is like more dramatic in this. But maybe a little bit. It's just the lighting makes it look different, okay?
The deadline by the Trump administration, quote, transparency. Is that how you see it?
What I see, and what I know many victims of the Epstein-Maxwell abuse have seen for nearly 2 decades now, is a continuation of a massive government-sponsored cover-up. This is not accountability. This is not transparency. What the victims have received repeatedly is deception, delay, and diversion. And this is one more example of that unfortunate re-victimization of the over 100 children who suffered abuse at the hands of Epstein and Maxwell.
I want to throw out some important dates over the next couple of months here. August 26th, October 14th, former government officials testifying before the House Oversight Committee. September 2nd, Congress returning from recess. September 3rd, Representatives Thomas Massey and Rokana to potential release of Epstein files standing next to Epstein survivors. The 29th of September, SCOTUS will look at closed-door conference with Ghislaine Maxwell. October 1, government shutdown deadline. So they have quite a bit going on. What information, substantive, are you expecting in the next 2 months to come out of all of what we're looking at?
We have learned, unfortunately, not to expect anything of value. Efforts, for example, to...
Nothing is... There will just be nothing, because there is nothing. Well, the question is, will they make something up? That's it.
Release grand jury testimony are an obvious diversion. There is nothing in those transcripts that is not already well known But the Department of Justice has at hand substantive information that could be released tomorrow without waiting on subpoenas, without waiting on court orders. There is an 80-plus...
We seen the new Warren Smith video about you debating Andrew Wilson? Oh, God, no.
...page prosecution memorandum that was drafted in 2007 that is in the hands of the Department of Justice that outlines the results of a detailed investigation that had taken part at that point in time. There's a 50-plus page federal indictment that never got filed as a result of the Epstein sweetheart deal. But those documents exist. They are there. There's a transcript of 2 days of interviews with Ghislaine Maxwell. There's no reason why that transcript is being withheld if the objective of the federal government was really to achieve transparency, to finally play it straight with the Epstein victims. Those transcripts ought to be released. And you mentioned witness lists of individuals that are supposed to appear before government oversight committees. Well, those witness lists, they read like a casting call for Epstein cover-up episode number 50, because the only person that can answer some of the most significant questions with regard to this cover-up, the only person who has those answers is Alex Acosta. And he is missing from that list with no reason whatsoever for him not to be at the top.
Well, I think to that point, sir, it speaks to exactly what's at play here. They don't want this exposed. Trump is doing everything he possibly can, from invading the District of Columbia to having glad-handing moments with Vladimir Putin.
The Texas standoff is officially over. Democrats in the Texas State House of Representatives totally caved today. Returned to Austin, where they will now be present.
Is there an ordinary timeline for when new districts are drawn? Does it ordinarily happen during or right after the census? And then when is the last time an off-census redistricting has happened anywhere? Does anybody know that information?
Present to witness the passage of what President Trump is calling one big, beautiful congressional map, expected to add up to 5 Republican members of Congress to the House in D.C. And President Trump now urging the state legislature to pass the map as soon as possible, and is saying, quote, "It is wonderful to see Republicans everywhere standing up to save our country." Now, the House met today after Texas Governor Greg Abbott called a second special session, and here's how it went down and how it started.
We are done waiting. We have a quorum. Now is the time for action. We will move quickly, and the schedule will be demanding until our work is complete. To that end, members who have been present before today, for whom arrest warrants were not issued, will receive written permission to return Wednesday at 10 a.m. Members who have not been present until today, for whom arrest warrants were issued, will be granted written permission to leave only after agreeing to be released into the custody of a designated DPS officer appointment under the rules of the House, or who will ensure your return Wednesday at 10 a.m.
So because the Democrats left so that they couldn't get quorum, now the solution for the Texas legislature is they're saying, if you want to leave before we do our next vote, that's fine, but you have to release yourself into the custody of like the police, and then they'll escort you to wherever you want to go.
Here with more, Governor of the great state of Texas. God bless Texas. Greg Abbott is with us. As you predicted, they caved. Congratulations, number one. Number two, you really, in the process, I think, did the country a real service. The country is now aware how gerrymandered California is, New York is.
He's not even picking the best gerrymandered states. States typically redraw their congressional districts every 10 years following the completion of the U.S. Census. Typically, census data is published at the end of the year in which a count takes place. The most recent U.S. Census was carried out in 2020. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the 2020 census results were delayed until April 2021. The next census will take place in 2030, and states will begin the redistricting process again in 2031. States will occasionally update their districts in between the processes that occur every decade. For example, Alabama and Louisiana used new lines in 2024 following court orders. How did those get redrawn? And lawmakers in North Carolina and New York made adjustments to their map. Ohio plans changes in 2025. Okay, so I guess people do off-season redistricting.
Is Illinois is, New Jersey is, all of these blue states, where Republicans get 30, 40, in some cases 48% of the vote, and either zero representation or very low representation because they have gerrymandered their states to death.
Most of Americans were unaware how these blue states had gerrymandered their states so much. It's so ironic that these Texas Democrat House members went to Illinois, which is one of the most gerrymandered states in the entire country.
Wait, I still can't believe how fucking cinema it is that the chick Xena shot at with paintballs just happened to be the best friend of Greg Abbott's daughter. Is that true?
And when you look at California, Illinois, Massachusetts, New York, they've squeezed out all Republicans they can possibly squeeze out. What Texas is doing, we're just drawing fair maps as allowed by law, and it will ensure that at least 5 more members of Republicans will be serving in the United States Congress. Let me add to what you showed on the agenda earlier, because the Democrats did return to the Texas Capitol, to the state of Texas this morning. And then hours later, the House committee already passed those maps out, and those congressional maps are going to pass out on the House floor on Wednesday. They've already passed out of the Senate. They will become law probably by the end of this week.
Oh, that's great news.
Dan and Moon went over it yesterday.
Let me ask you about this. You talk about other states being gerrymandered, and every Democrat kept saying we're going to fight fire with fire. And I'm like, there's no more fire for them to fight with. There's no more gerrymandering available to them because they have mastered the art of gerrymandering, haven't they?
Well, then why are you mad if they redraw things, right? If they can't get any worse, right?
of the list of what you're talking about, of course, is Gavin Newsom, who seems to be trying to run for president. But the fact of the matter is they are incapable of achieving what he wants to achieve out there because it's going to require a constitutional amendment. And a poll came out showing that 2/3 of his own state residents are against what Gavin Newsom is proposing. And also, as we talked about, Illinois, where J.P. Pritzker is running seemingly for president, they've squeezed out as many Republican districts as they possibly can. And of course, Massachusetts, even though Trump won about 38 or 39% of the vote there, they have 0 members of Republicans in the United States Congress. And so what the Democrats have done is disgraceful and potentially illegal. I'll tell you this much. If California dares to try to squeeze out more Republicans, there are going to be lawsuits that will overturn that. What I can tell you in the state of Texas, the 5 Republican seats that we are adding, they are going to withstand legal challenges, and those will be Republican members added to the United States Congress.
Let me ask you this, because Gavin Newsom seems to be one of the louder voices against you, or has been. I did notice, by the way, you said you had the low...
Among the most gerrymandered states: Arkansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Democrat. North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, Utah, West Virginia, Wisconsin. Wait, why don't we think, or what was the reason why we don't think Illinois is on this top 10 list? Isn't Illinois pretty rough? Their vote was split like 47-53, but they have, is it 2-13? Bro, these districts.
Lowest unemployment rate ever, greatest job creation ever for the last number of months, while simultaneously the last 2 months in California, did I read it right that California has the highest unemployment rate in the country? You have one of the lowest and one of the highest, one of the greatest job creation records in the history of the state?
So Texas ranks number 1 in the United States for the most new jobs added, and we've been number 1 for a long time, and we're bolstering the United States economy. At the very same time, it was shown that California, under Gavin Newsom, they rank number 1 in the highest unemployment. And so while they're flailing at adding new jobs, California, under Gavin Newsom, they rank number 1 in the highest unemployment. And so while they're flailing at adding new jobs, Texas is leading
California. What is it right now?
Do you expect more migration? For example, if let's say Mamdani wins in New York, do you expect more migration to the great state of Texas or migration?
Oh, 5.5? So it's a little higher than it should be. It's brutal out there, though. I don't know if that's brutal, but I wonder if all the recent tech layoffs are, I don't know how much tech, I know that like in terms of like dollars that they produce, that industry is huge. I don't know what the employment numbers overall look like in tech for California. Well, I guess, what percentage of jobs in California are tech related? Make up 7 to 10% of the total workforce. Okay, so a lot of jobs dumped here could have a negative impact.
Great state of Florida, that all these big companies, they're not going to take what Mamdani is selling, and that they're going to leave, and they're going to leave in droves, and it's going to be, you know, another mass exodus, another wave, if you will.
So, Sean, we are fully expecting it because Mamdani is going to cause so many New York businesses and others to flee. And Texas is getting ready for it because, as you may have noticed, we're not spending as much money as we used to on the border wall in South Texas because Trump is actually stepping up and doing that. Instead, we're getting ready to build a border wall on the northern and eastern border of Texas to guard against all the New Yorkers fleeing to our state.
I don't blame you. You know, there ought to be some type of litmus test. And the only litmus test is you can come to Texas, we have open arms, but don't bring the policies that destroyed your state with you. There's got to be one criteria. You know, you can't be a commie Mamdani supporter. Anyway, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, good to see you, sir. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our...
Why not research red states versus blue states? A lot of smart Dems also believe red states are better. What does that mean? What do you mean by red states are better? And what smart Dems are saying that?
Jonathan Siri, thank you so much. Also in California, the state is trying to make truckers ditch diesel, and the Justice Department is having none of it.
The Trump administration suing the pants off of that state over its electric vehicle mandate with 2 complaints, seeking to end California's emissions standards, which require a share of heavy-duty vehicles to be all electric.
For like CDLs or for all drivers?
By 2035. An attorney for the Department of Justice's Environment and Natural Resources Division says, quote, agreement, contract, partnership, mandate, whatever California wants to call it, this unlawful action attempts to undermine federal law. President Donald Trump and Congress have invalidated the Clean Air Act waivers that were the basis for California's actions.
Joining us now is Power the Future founder and executive director Daniel Turner. Daniel, you're an expert in this area. What's going on here? What's your read of the situation? Who's right, who's wrong on this one?
Well, California is in the wrong, and that's unsurprising. California's waiver has exempted them this blanket permission that none of the punitive measures of any laws, any environmental laws that came out of the Biden EPA, for example, they have to pay. So Gavin Newsom can say, well, yeah, no, we're implementing this, and it doesn't cost our economy. It doesn't make our life more difficult. The California waiver has been this blanket acknowledgement that California doesn't really have to follow the law, because we realize if California put...
I meant that whether Republican policy is better on a state level, I don't even know how anybody could take a position on that. I don't know what Republican policy even fucking means right now. Like, I don't know what that even stands for.
Put into effect all these environmental policies, their economy would be in worse shape than it is. So California lost their waiver on environmental rules. But look, this is another example of California just trying to decide winners and losers. I saw that little teaser of the upcoming interview or the upcoming clip with Eric Swalwell. Why is food so expensive? Because of things like this. Because of the amount of environmental policy put on truckers, put on farmers.
Oh my God. Is that where we're going to go next? So there will be inflation, but the inflation is going to be blamed on California somehow? Just like how we are finally starting to acknowledge that maybe climate change is having impacts, but it's actually just the Jewish weather machines that's causing the climate change or something? Like,
what President Trump is trying to get
California and its liberal
policy put on truckers, put on farmers. What President Trump is trying to get
California and its liberal idiots are fighting this only for
liberal idiots. He's laughing like, oh my God, she went so hard.
For, again, power control. It's not for what is good for the people of California. You have written and talked, and I have read endlessly about the insanity and moronacy of electric commercial vehicles, trucks specifically. Drayage trucks, new ones have to be diesel starting last year, and you know this, but just the weight of these vehicles. Each electric truck has to run on 2 batteries, 8,000 pounds. Batteries can power trucks for only 150 to 330 miles between charges, and a charge takes up to 8 hours. So you can imagine, like, they can only go short distances anyway, and then
there's no world where California is mandating that for all. That's just not possible. You would destroy your entire. I don't even know what she's referring to. There's zero chance that this is true.
Tear the roads apart.
And you're paying for that, right? You're paying for your delivery truck to pull over to the side of the road for 8 hours to charge up their vehicles. And what should be delivered in a day is taking 2 days because of delays in charging. You're paying for those costs. So that's driving up the price. Look, I'm really indifferent about where the economy goes if the free market decides it. If electric vehicles one day rule the world, that's great. I called my organization Power the Future because
semi-trucks can typically travel between 900 and 2,000 miles on a full tank of fuel. Damn.
I don't know what the future is going to be, but I do know that right now, electric vehicles are not this panacea that they're made out to be. Electric tractors are non-existent. Electric commercial truckers are driving up costs. And so we're not going to have a bright future if we punish our today. And mandating it, whether it was Joe Biden or Gavin Newsom, mandating it with false deadlines and false percentages. By 2030, 50% of trucks have to be EV. None of those things are going to usher in a better tomorrow.
I want to transition to this.
Not a CDL, but aren't you required to get off the road and sleep after some stupid number of hours, like 10? What? No, don't they just take micro naps? They just sleep and drive at the same time. Hell yeah.
Because Rivian is saying it's facing a $100 million hole after Trump rolled back fuel economy standards. Rivian, I've driven one. It's a good product, but boy, financially, they've got...
In New Jersey, all new cars need to be EVs or hybrids. I'm talking about like interstate semis. That sounds like that's what they were talking about here, not just in-state cars.
Some real question marks.
It's a fantastic car. It's really cool. I haven't driven one. I can't afford one. They're incredibly expensive. But God bless the people who can afford one, right? But poor Rivian, their model was based on government mandates that were going to outlaw the combustion engine, tax incentives that were subsidizing your purchase.
We were outlawing the combustion engine? It was going to be illegal?
Mandates that were going to outlaw the combustion engine, tax incentives that were subsidizing your purchase of an electric vehicle, and then also these exuberant, these crazy standards coming out of the Biden EPA of CAFE standards, of tailpipe emission standards that were punishing their competition. So if your business model is based on the power of government coercion to get rid of your competition, then you don't really have a product, right? What you have is force. And so no offense to Rivian, but now that you have to compete in the free world, in the free market, and you're not as profitable, that's not the fault of the Trump administration. It's the fault of a lousy business model that depended upon government to kick your enemies to the curb.
Yeah, you built your business model on the sky-high...
Isn't that exactly what tariffs are? Is you're relying on government intervention to make competitors non-competitive so that you can outcompete them by using the government to force them out of market?
President Trump announced yesterday that he's drafting an executive order aimed at banning mail-in ballots. It's not clear when that will happen, and yes, it will likely face legal challenges if and when he does. The president said that the topic came up actually during his Friday meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Vladimir Putin, smart guy, said you can't have an honest election with mail-in voting. And he said there's not a country in the world that uses it now.
Mail-in ballots are corrupt. Mail-in ballots, you can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots. And we, as a Republican Party, are going to do everything possible that we get rid of mail-in ballots.
Mail-in ballots are not corrupt. Election experts have been very clear. There's no evidence of widespread mail-in ballot fraud or widespread voter fraud.
We don't even need experts. We can just look at all the fucking court cases that they launched.
Period. And other countries, there are a slew of other countries that do use some form of mail-in ballots. Still, how do voters feel about this right now, since this is a topic that the president's going to continue to push? Harry Enton is here and is checking the numbers for us. How do voters in general feel about mail-in voting?
Yeah, they feel that Donald Trump is full of BS. What are we talking about here? Let's take a look here. Allow anyone to vote earlier by absentee. In 2020, it was about 2/3. You get 65%.
I love Cali, but they get these talking points because of Cali and its various counties that push for 100% zero emission homes and vehicles. I'm sorry, I thought we were states' rights people. So are we not? Does the government have the right to come in and tell states how individual counties can have their emission standards done? I mean, if counties want to do it, it's up to them, no?
After years that Donald Trump has been complaining about mail-in voting, where the numbers stand in 2024, basically the same. 60% of voters say that anyone should be allowed to vote either early or by absentee without needing an excuse. And that actually includes, get this, even 37% of Republicans. You have a substantial portion of Republicans who believe that voters should be back allowed to vote either early or absentee without an excuse. So the bottom line is the American people aren't with Donald Trump. They think he's full of it.
Well, and this gets back to the 2020 election, is where the basis of this comes from. And because in the president's false view that this led to him losing the election, that he actually did win the election. So he says, still, regardless, I digress. How do voters feel about the 2020 election now?
Yeah, exactly right. This is all based upon the Fugazi idea that Biden didn't legitimately win the election.
Fugazi? I've never heard that word before.
Feel about the 2020 election now.
Yeah, exactly right. This is all based upon the Fugazi idea that Biden didn't legitimately win the election. But again, voters think that Donald Trump is full of it. Biden's 2020 election was legit. Look at this. In December of 2020, look at that. It was 60%. In December of 2024, again, after Donald Trump has been arguing year after year after year that somehow that the
Is he making fun of Hasan here? How he dribbles?
Again, after Donald Trump has been arguing year after year after year that somehow that the election wasn't legit, which of course everybody who knows what they're talking about disagrees with them on because the election was legit, the voters are with the side of truth in this situation. 63% of them believe that Biden's win was legit, despite the garbage coming out of Donald Trump's mouth.
But what?
Mail-in ballots. He was fine with it.
Well, it was because his Republican strategists were panicking because they realized that they were going to lose without getting those mail-in ballots now. And I would imagine this time around, those same Republican strategists are also panicking because if he goes out there and starts to spread the word that mail-in ballots aren't going to work, this is going to be a real problem in the midterms for those Republicans.
I still think there's an argument to be made that Trump lost 2020 because he demonized mail-in ballots so much that if he would have just chilled on that, they wouldn't have swung quite as insanely heavily towards Democrats.
Plus the fact that he has no authority to do this. I mean, he tried to pass he wrote up an executive order a couple months ago to deal with voting, and he got shot down by 2 different federal judges. So there's really there's no path for him here, and it's sort of fascinating that all it takes is one suggestion from Putin. I mean, what were they doing talking about 2020 during these meetings? Like he's like a cat. It's like no object permanence here.
Where were the staff?
Cats don't have object permanence?
To remind the president that.
I got him. DOJ to begin sharing Epstein files with Congress on Friday. House member Comer. Although we watched this, apparently this is already delayed. They were due already, but now they've extended it to Friday, I guess. Again, nothing is... The subpoena had set a deadline of Tuesday for the department to produce the records, but Comer acknowledged in a statement that it would take time to produce all the records and ensure the identification of victims and any child sexual abuse material are redacted. I like how they give them so much time, and they're so gentle, and they're so... oh, it's okay. We understand if you're going to be late over and over and over again. They need time. Bill Barr. Cringe.
From New York 21, Elise Stefanic.
What is the reason for him advocating for only built-in ballots? You mean in-person ballots? Does it make the elections easier to manipulate or something? I don't know right now. I think he just has a personal hatred for him. Prior to COVID, there wasn't even strong evidence that mail-in ballots preferred Democrats. From what I saw, I think it was a 538 article. When they looked at the research, I think it was either a wash or it slightly favored Republicans, because I think people who were military tend to use mail-in ballots quite a bit. But the idea that it dramatically favored one side was just not true up until COVID, because more Democrats were worried about getting sick and more Republicans were a part of a death cult who wanted to die.
Our Congresswoman from New York 21, Elise Stefanic.
There was a call for Stefanic to hold a town hall, echoing through the crowd.
Ooh. Based. Fuck them.
Listen, our law enforcement officers are telling us that people are coming up to them on the street, and they said a lot of people are walking by whispering, saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. They're hearing stories every single night and day of people saying that they feel safe now to walk their own neighborhood where they live because of what our great...
Hold on. Wait, I've never noticed this before. This is my third one for the day, so this is my last one. Imagine if the hair was different for Pam Bondi. Just a little bit? Like they could be related? Kind of, sort of, maybe?
Great men and women in law enforcement are doing at the directive of the president.
And going out to dinner, according to the president. And
going out to dinner.
Going out to dinner. Have the dinner reservation numbers, whatever, recovered yet? Because they were down bigly.
Yeah, Sean, you can already see and feel the difference in D.C.
Oh, her. Okay, hold on. You got to give me this one. This is for today. I'm sorry. I hate this. I hate this fucking bitch so much. God, I hate her so much.
People are knowing that they can walk down the streets, they can run their errands, and they can do so in a more safe environment today than they could just a week ago. In fact, the statistics say that just robberies and those crimes are down 46% in the last week because of what President Trump has done to go after these criminals. So we've got a lot of different agencies that are out there working together. I'm so glad that there are states that are stepping up and being willing to activate National Guard troops to help as well. We've got ICE and CBP, we've got Secret Service, we've got all different kinds of DEA and the FBI and those folks from the DOJ that are committed to this effort. And they've really got the backs of the American people. I'm so proud of the work that we're doing.
Oh, USAID stuff. Federal judge granted a request by USAID workers to certify class action to pursue their arguments that Elon Musk made the decision to shut down the agency in violation of the Constitution's Appointments Clause. Wow, in 6 years, we're going to hear something real great about
to
that.
be successful in Intel to be successful in America. Okay, we'd like an American transistor built in America, right? We'd like an American to be doing that. So Donald Trump says, "Hey, look, let's turn the money that Biden was going to just give away and turn that to equity for the American people." Yes. It is a worse deal than giving it away. But when you put this money in the hands of Donald Trump, you're going to get a better deal for the American taxpayer. That's who Donald Trump is, and it's obviously the right move to make.
Well, all right, it may be obvious to you. Do you get governance here?
By the way, once you're in for 10%, do you have to go in for even more?
No. Come on.
No, what?
Come on,
what?
stop that stuff. No.
Do you have to go this to you? Do you get governance here? By the way, once you're in for 10%, do you have to go in for even more?
No. Come on.
No, what?
Come on, stop that stuff. It's not governance, right? We're just converting what was a grant under Biden into equity for the Trump administration.
I get that.
I
get that. I just asked if you're going to get governance.
What does equity mean? What does that mean? Are you entitled to some like dividends or some portion of revenues, or are you going to sell the equity, or like what?
You're only 10% of the company.
It means big money, retard. True.
You don't. Why wouldn't you want some
non-voting?
Okay.
No, stop. Don't overdo it.
Well, I'm not overdoing it, but you got a golden share on U.S. Steel, so it's not like impossible to imagine that you do want some level of governance here if you're going to put 10% of taxpayers' money into, or 10% of the company's taxpayers' money.
RFK Jr. challenges Pete Hegseth to a pull-up and push-up competition. Oh shit. Mr. TRT versus Mr. Alcoholic. Let's go.
All right, here we are in the bowels of the Pentagon for the Pete and Bobby Challenge.
Oh,
I
boy.
think this was your idea, so I blame you. But it's all about Make America Healthy Again. We're going to be fit, not fat. We want recruits that are ready to go and challenge. What are we doing today, Bobby?
Oh, Pete and I are going to do our part, encourage American youth to do this challenge. And the challenge is to do 100 push-ups and 50 pull-ups in any order you want in under 10 minutes.
So 5 minutes is the top standard that we want to meet.
Not going to be able to do that.
From the Secretary of Defense Shark Attack.
Okay.
You can do better, Rachel Tom! Let's go! Make your country proud! Lieutenant Commander Gonzalez, you did the challenge in what time? 3:56. 3 minutes and 24 seconds. Gunnery Sergeant Prince. Gunnery Sergeant High. 243, sir. 243.
We want to send out a challenge to Sean Dublin.
I'm going to throw it on the military side a little bit, too. Let's challenge the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Raising Cane, and then my friend on TV, Will Kane. How about the Pete and Bobby Challenge? 100 push-ups, 50 pull-ups, but we hope Americans will take this challenge and you'll pass it along so that we're ready.
Okay. All right. Oh, here we got this. Okay. RFK and Pete look like they're related. Give me that one. Yeah, in the same cult. Okay, we're done with new stuff. What do we got for memes today? Jesus Christ. What? Really good movie?